contradicts their interpretation of Scripture. So as you know, the Protestants put all truth in the Bible. They believe that God willed to put all truth in the Bible. The Bible is the beginning and end of all truth, whereas for us it's only limited, and that God put all truth in the church for us, not the Bible. For them, each individual must find for himself the truth in the Bible. In other words, for Protestants, God willed the Bible to be the source for humans to gain knowledge about himself. There is no other source. That is the beginning and the end of all knowledge. If that is your perspective, that God willed all truths in the Bible, then of course, if God willed the Bible to be used by everybody, and he hasn't given an authoritative interpreter of the Bible, then the Bible must be easy to read. It must be accessible to everybody. And therefore, it would be natural for you to choose the literal sense. The most direct and obvious sense would be the sense. You wouldn't be likely to interpret the Bible sometimes literally, sometimes allegorically. You wouldn't expect to have a careful explanation of the Bible by an authorized interpreter, a divine institution. So they come up with the idea that God willed to teach truths of physical science by means of the Bible, whereas if you read the scripture encyclicals of Leo XIII, Benedict XV, and Pius XII, they would say Scripture is not a science book. So according to them, the universe was created in 6 24-hour days in the exact literal way in order described by Genesis 1. That the universe, the solar system, and the earth were created in a completely formed state around 6,000 years ago, and that the flood, which we must admit happened, but they consider that it covered the entire earth, and that all the animals that we currently have were on the Ark of Noah. The traditional Catholic exegetes, PreVatican II, would hold that the flood covered all of the habited earth. Not the entire earth, but all the earth that was inhabited by people. And so what they do is they take these beliefs that they hold are revealed by God, and then they go out into reality and they try to confirm them by certain things in reality. In other words, they're idealists. They try to impose these ideas on reality. No matter what reality teaches them, they'll always fit them in these conclusions, and they call their field creation science. So they reject the Big Bang Theory outright on the basis of religious grounds, even though it has strong empirical evidence and it supports theism. By doing that, they make the Bible seem to be the enemy of science, and they make the Bible and religion seem to be the enemy of reason. They fall into a species of irrationality. I grade them as on the side of idealism. Not completely. I'm not as hard as them as they are on the scientists. They're not as irrational as the scientists. But still, they fall on the side of idealism to a certain degree. Moreover, if they were consistent, if they wanted to interpret Genesis 1 absolutely literally, they would hold that there is a roof over the earth, the firmament. The firmament is something firm. It's something hard. So the Bible describes there being this firmament above the earth, and that there's water above that roof, that there's water surrounding the sides of the earth. They would hold that God uses human words and speaks to himself, that God has a body with which he moves over waters, and that the earth is flat, because Genesis describes the earth as being flat. If we look at the literal description of Genesis for the universe, this is what it looked like. The earth is flat. It's resting on columns. There's this roof over the earth that has certain fissures in it, and then there's waters. There's waters over the firmament, and there are some Protestants who are totally consistent with the Bible, and they founded something called the Flat Earth Society. I mean, they actually exist today. Another comment I give, I got one of their videos. It's really spooky, They say the universe brought to you by the Freemasons and the Jesuits. Yeah. Well, at least they are consistent with their own principles, I mean, they're being actually consistent.